As a matter of fact, as I've said many times, if there is in fact a God and he's not a humanist, screw him. I don't care what he thinks. Can he squash me like a bug? Yes, but that doesn't make him more moral. Can he send me to hell? I will go to hell knowing that I was a morally superior to the thug that sent me there. God doesn't solve any of this.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I stumbled across this video and let me tell you, this one had me on the edge of my seat. We've got Matt Dillahunty going head to head in a debate about whether you actually need God to have a foundation for morality. And what happens next is one of the most powerful takedowns of an argument I have ever seen. The response he gets back is literally just, "I'm confused." And that moment right there tells you everything you need to know. So make sure you watch until the end because this gets good. Please comment down below where you're watching from. I really love to see people from all over the world connecting in here. All right, now let's get into the video.
If we're going to talk about morality, if we're going to talk about morality as resulting in a better world, now we've defined it in a way where there is some world, the physical facts of which are superior to this world, independent of what any individual may think about it. We could all be wrong. It could be, and just to veer off on the climate change for half a second, because I don't know, it could be that while ending all fossil fuel use immediately is a massive disruption that causes all kinds of short-term loss and yet ultimately fixes the problem. Or it could be that it doesn't fix a damn thing. We don't know. But if we genuinely have the goal of seeking a better world, then the goal is to look at the available evidence and make the best decision that we can with the information that we can. And for somebody to sit around and say, I don't care, I'm not going to be here. Okay, they're not participating in the system, but they're benefiting from it now. And the obligation, I would say, that any of us have is because we've already benefited from the work that others have done. It doesn't mean I'm required, I don't have to. You can't make me pay it back. I can, in a way I could. But you're right that I can't force you to have a motivation to pay back what you've already benefited from. And yet, if you don't, we can look at you and say, you are not a moral person. And when we say that, we're not saying you are not living up to an imperative, a universal objective imperative. We are saying you are not living up to how we have defined morality to be.
Yeah, I'm still just really confused on this. We might want to move on, but okay. I'll just say, it sounds like what your position is now. When you were giving your opening statement, it sounded like you were saying, yes, there's nothing in this world that would compel you to a person who didn't want to actually seek the good of humanity, but once you've agreed that you are seeking well-being, then there are certain ways to get there.
No. Once you've agreed, now we can have the conversation about what is better.
Yeah, that's fine.
But you are under whatever obligations you're under from the circumstances anyway. You may not care. I can't force someone to not kill themselves. I can't force someone to care about their own life. But we also, I believe, have an obligation, and we take some of this seriously. Like I'm okay with and very supportive of like the death with dignity idea, that when someone wants to terminate their life, when those circumstances of their life where continuing to live is dramatically less preferable than dying, that people should be allowed to choose the manner and process of their death. But we also know that there are people who, through mental health issues or short-term circumstances, will also go down that path of a permanent solution to a problem that we have an understanding is temporary. There are reasons why we put people in institutions on occasions to protect them from themselves. That is us being responsible to other members of society. And we do so in a way because that is beneficial to all of us, and that it's a good idea to lock me up when I am a danger to others, even if I'm unable to recognize it. That just benefits everybody. And I can sit there and bang my head against the wall and myself forever saying, how dare you do this? I don't have an obligation to follow your rules or whatever else. And I would be completely correct in the sense that there's nothing about the universe that compels me to do that, but there's something about the facts that I'm living in a society with other people that do.
So now it seems like you're saying, going back to what you were saying about you almost like you have an obligation to repay your debts, and you're indebted to the society you're in to repay the society for anything you've derived from that, and therefore you have an obligation not to go around doing horrible things.
Well, those are two different things.
where are these kinds of things coming from, right? Because when you were saying, hey, if you want this, then these are the ways to get there, I agree completely. That makes perfect sense. If you lay out what the goal is, then you can start figuring out ways to get there. But so the question was, well, what about people who aren't seeking those things? What obligations they have?
Seeking which things?
What about people who just don't care about what happens, right? Like, what about people who say, look, you know, if we last 10,000 years or we last 1,000,000 years, who cares? I just really don't care, right?
Okay.
If we view ourselves as like a cosmic accident, and why do we think we're so special as compared to
those two things
other machines for propagating
they're
DNA?
not tied together.
I'm
I
just
can
saying,
think we're a
you were
cosmic
saying that-
accident
you
and
were
still
saying-
care.
That's true. That's true. I'm
There you go. So why are we constantly
I'm
conflating them?
trying to locate the moral obligation for someone who says, I just don't care about those things, or
We
I care about
impose
something.
a moral obligation.
No, that's what I mean. You're saying society imposes a moral obligation.
The physical
on
facts
people.
of the universe imposes a moral obligation.
You just said that the universe doesn't impose. You said there's nothing in the universe that imposes the moral obligation.
The physical facts of the universe dictate what is better.
This is the part of the debate where everything clicks into place. Because what you just witnessed is something incredibly important. Matt just laid out one of the most powerful arguments for secular morality that I have ever heard in a debate format. And the response he got back was, I am still confused. Think about that for a second. The entire argument being made against secular humanism this whole time has been that without a God, you cannot have a foundation for morality. But when Matt explains exactly how that foundation works, the response is confusion. Not a counterargument, not a rebuttal, confusion. And that tells you everything you need to know about how strong this position actually is. Here is what Matt is saying and why it matters so much. He said the physical facts of the universe dictate what is better. And if we define morality as seeking what is better for human beings, then we have our foundation right there. This is not some abstract philosophical concept floating in the ether. This is grounded in reality, in actual measurable outcomes, in consequences that we can observe and evaluate. You do not need a supernatural authority to tell you that cooperation leads to better outcomes than constant conflict. You do not need ancient texts to understand that societies built on trust and mutual respect tend to flourish more than those built on fear and oppression. And here is what really gets me. Matt made this profound statement that I think everyone needs to hear. He said, "We are the only ones who can step in and seek justice. There is apparently no God concerned or interested in seeking justice. Justice comes from us. Compassion comes from us. We are the actors. We are the participants. We are the beneficiaries." Do you understand how empowering that statement is? Because for thousands of years, humanity has been waiting for divine intervention, waiting for cosmic justice, waiting for someone else to fix our problems. And what have we learned? That every single advancement in human rights, every single improvement in how we treat each other, every single step toward a more just society, it came from US. Human beings decided slavery was wrong. Human beings decided women deserve equal rights. Human beings created systems of justice and accountability, not because some voice from the sky commanded it, but because we recognized through reason and empathy that these things lead to a better world for everyone.
And if we're going to talk about morality and define morality as seeking what is better, that's
The
where
physical
the
facts of the universe dictate what is better.
for us, yes. It's better for me to live a healthy life than it is to not live.
Does the universe dictate? Why would the universe care whether coronavirus flourishes or we flourish?
It doesn't.
Exactly.
But the physical facts of the universe show that if coronavirus is going to kill humans, and I am a humanist, and morality is about what humans do and not what viruses do, that it's in my best interest to work in opposition to coronavirus.
I agree it's in your best interest. I also agree that it's in the best
And that's
interest.
what morality and humanism is about, not about viruses. I don't give a rat's ass about viruses and how pissed off they are that we're exterminating them.
Speaking of rats,
Yes.
brought up rats, right? If rats are in some sense seeking rat flourishing, and dogs are in some sense seeking dog flourishing, they're wired to do that, and we're wired to seek our own flourishing.
Well, now you're saying that we're all wired to seek our flourishing when you started off this entire discussion by saying, I think that you have too rosy of a picture of what people are willing to do, and let me give you some examples of how people can be manipulated.
No. I believe that people are, to some extent, wired to seek their own flourishing in terms of you're just going to eat, but you're just going to eat. Most people are going to look around for a mate or something like that. People are going to do. That's what I'm thinking of in terms of flourishing. As far as something beyond their own sort of limited flourishing, I don't think most people tremendously by nature care. I think they can be conditioned into caring. I think if they think about certain moral principles, they can be conditioned.
I do too, and I think that condition can occur both by appealing to some God, whether or not that God exists, because you can tell someone you need to care about other people because God wants you to, and if you don't do it, he's going to send you to hell, and if you do it, then maybe you'll get to spend eternity in heaven. You can do it with that, whether that's true or not. You can motivate people with a lie. But secular humanism is striving to motivate people with the truth. As best we can understand it, here is what the consequences of our actions are. We are stuck here on this ball interacting, and as far as we can tell, it is up to us to solve those problems. And it is up to us to come up with motivations, because let's say you convince someone that they should be good because of a God. Pick a God, doesn't matter. What happens when they stop believing in that God?
Now we get to the part that exposes the entire problem with the opposing argument. Because what just happened here is a classic debate tactic that completely falls apart under scrutiny. The argument keeps shifting back to this idea that atheism equals nihilism. That if you do not believe in a God, you must think humans are just meaningless machines. But Matt caught it immediately and called it out perfectly. He said, I care about human beings, and that is all that matters. I do not need a God to care about human beings. And that, right there, is the whole point that keeps getting missed. You see, there is this assumption baked into the theistic argument that caring about humanity requires divine permission, as if compassion needs a cosmic signature to be valid. But that is completely backwards. We care about each other because we are each other. We share this experience of consciousness, of suffering, of joy, of hope. You do not need someone to command you to love your children. You do not need a rule book to feel empathy when you see someone in pain. These things are built into the human experience itself. And here is where the argument completely collapses. Matt pointed out something that should have ended this debate right there. He said your particular notion of God has no foundation, no demonstration that it is real in any way. Think about the irony here. The entire time, the criticism has been that secular humanism lacks a foundation. But what foundation does the God concept actually provide? Where is the demonstration? Where is the evidence? We have thousands of different religions with thousands of different moral codes, all claiming divine authority, and they contradict each other constantly. That is not a foundation. That is chaos dressed up in certainty.
Now they don't have a foundation at all. But if you convince people, based on a secular humanist view, that they should be moral, and then we find out there's a God, that doesn't change anything at all about our behavior or morality. As a matter of fact, as I've said many times, if there is in fact a God and he's not a humanist, screw him. I don't care what he thinks. Can he squash me like a bug? Yes, but that doesn't make him more moral. Can he send me to hell? I will go to hell knowing that I was a morally superior to the thug that sent me there. God doesn't solve any of this.
Yeah, I'd like to pursue that. I still don't get where the moral obligation is coming in for someone who, if you have a conditional statement, if X, then Y. If you're seeking well-being, then here's how you get to it.
Solve it with God. What is my moral obligation with your God model?
Oh, no, that's actually very simple. By the way, do you really not see the difference between? I've been around some shady characters in my life. I've been in mental hospitals, prisons, jails, everything. And believe me when I tell you, there are people who are sitting down across from you. They're having they're talking completely normally, but they're sitting there wondering what your face would look like as the blood runs out of you if they slit your throat, or what you would look like if they started peeling out patterns of your skin or something. Do you really not see the difference between saying, what is this person across from me? If I ask the sort of the big questions about what this person is. How did he get here? What is he? Where is he going? What is his purpose? Asking these kinds of questions, you get very different answers on atheism and theism. If you're starting off with, well, I got here because my ancestors did a better job finding a mate and things like that. Where am I heading? Well, I'm heading for extinction one way or another. What am I here for? Well, I'm
this
kind
is
of
the
a
most
machine for propagating
ridiculous
DNA.
fatalist straw man, because first of all, you went to atheism versus theism, and I'm sitting here talking about secular humanism as a foundation versus God.
Well, no, I'm using atheism as a negation of theism here. If you're talking about, so to
You are
compare
using
God versus no God.
atheism as being equal to fatalism.
And this is where it all comes together, because Matt said something here that I think is absolutely crucial for understanding why this debate matters. He said, you can convince people to be better with a lie and be better with something that is not true. The question is, which is a better foundation? And that distinction is everything. Because yes, you can motivate people with stories about eternal reward and punishment. You can scare people into behaving with threats of hellfire. And sometimes it works. But is that actually a good foundation? Or is it just manipulation that happens to produce some positive outcomes? Here is an analogy that might help explain why this matters. Imagine you have two employees. One does their job well because they genuinely understand why the work matters and how it contributes to something meaningful. The other does their job well because they are terrified of getting fired. On the surface, both employees are productive, but which one has a better foundation for their behavior? Which one is going to adapt when circumstances change? Which one is going to make good decisions when no one is watching? The person who understands why something matters will always have a more stable foundation than the person who is just following orders out of fear. And that is exactly what secular humanism offers. It is not just a list of rules handed down from authority. It is an understanding of why certain behaviors lead to better outcomes. It is a framework that can grow and adapt as we learn more about ourselves and our world. Matt pointed out that the opposing argument started with God and theism completely not defined. No propositions, no system, no nothing. And he is absolutely right. You cannot claim to have a superior foundation when you have not even established what that foundation actually is. Secular humanism has clear principles. It has stated goals. It has methods for evaluating progress and correcting mistakes. What does a vague appeal to God provide? Just the assertion that somewhere out there is an answer. That is not a foundation. That is a placeholder for one. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.